been discussing the purpose of creation. The objective of creation was to create a being which reflects God's characteristics. And the most important characteristic which the human being possesses, which no other creature has, this ability to choose one's actions. Of course, certain functions of the body are natural or instinctive, no different than any other living creature. However, the most significant issues of accomplishment or failure is within the realm of choice. And that we have a choice. We have the ability to take initiative, to accomplish, to be effective, or to fail. And because these initiatives are dependent upon one's choice, that choice is attributed to the person himself. And this is really God's characteristic, that God does as he wishes to do. And just as every aspect of God is only attributed to him, identically, one's choice is attributed to the person himself. The primary being, which is the human being, is a composite, as we discuss, of something totally physical, which naturally is inclined to physicality. Physicality in the absolute sense is the antithesis of spiritual. The soul, which is totally spiritual, there's nothing comparable to the spirituality of the soul. Even the greatest angel has no relevance to the dimension of the spirituality of the soul, is inclined to do only something which is spiritual. We have these two entities fused together, and there's a struggle. Here the body is drawn towards the material, the physical, the desire. The soul is drawn towards the spiritual, which is holy, which is godly. And life is a battle. And especially since one doesn't sense his soul, all we sense is our physicality, this makes the battle even more difficult. And therefore, God gave certain mechanisms to temper the physicality, to suppress the physicality, to mold and hone the physical, the spiritual aspects of the person, which are through his commandments. And his commandments initially, even for the Noahide, were communicated to Adam when he was created. These are known as the 7 Noahide laws. At Sinai, when the Jewish people were taken as God's people, we were given God's most precious creation, his law, the written and oral law, which is comprised of 613 commandments, 248 positive commandments, 365 negative commandments. The Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh writes in his commentary, which is a semi-Kabbalistic commentary, that after one sins, sin actually causes spiritual illness. spiritual deficiency, it limits the soul. The soul becomes constricted. How does one alleviate that constriction? By observing the negative commandments, although one had transgressed. Even if one repents, being weaned from the negative commandment, the soul naturally recovers. It's no different than if a person is a drug addict and the foreign substances in one's body, and one ceases to allow the substance to go into his system, there's withdrawal. The withdrawal process is part of the rehabilitative process. Removing oneself from that negativity, from that foreign element, the body in its own right has the ability to recover. The recovery process is a difficult process. If one violated, transgressed negative commandments, and he allowed all this impurity to be absorbed into his body, into his soul, and then one ceases, and he's weaned from all this negativity, these foreign elements, the soul, the body, has the ability naturally to recover. So that's recovery, only to bring it to a level of equilibrium. But to advance, which in the words of the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, the holy Or HaChaim writes, the positive commandment is illumination. It illuminates the soul. It energizes, which allows a great level of advancement and a sense of one's own spiritual essence, which one normally doesn't sense. It's a spiritualization process. What I would compare it to, you have a person who really hasn't attended to his physical body, didn't exercise, did not eat right, and he begins with an exercise regimen, eating healthily. Initially, it's an uphill battle, it's a struggle, because the body itself is actually not attuned to that type of diet or that type of exercise regimen. But once the person restores his health and the body functions as it's meant to function, although when one runs the mile, the 5 miles in a certain period of time, and the person feels his blood pulsing through his body, the person feels a certain level of elation, sensing his own physicality functioning as it should function. Identically, we have no sense of our spirituality. But if one chooses to partake of the spiritual elements, which innately have the ability to activate the soul, which causes an effect to the physicality of the body, to elevate it, to advance it, to spiritualize it, one has a sense of that spirituality. One becomes inspired. One becomes motivated. One senses a certain euphoria, spiritual euphoria, through these elements, these mediums which is provided, which are the positive commandments. The ultimate positive commandment is the study of Torah. That's the all-encompassing, as the Talmud tells us, that the energy, the spiritual energy which lies in the study of Torah is the equivalent of all the positive commandments combined. For every word which one studies, and of course it has to do with one's intent. Does one study it purely for the sake of God, or does one study it for the sake of intellectualism, or for the sake of personal advancement, all this has a bearing to what degree these words will allow the soul to be activated or advanced.